You're listening to the Cleveland Browniacs, a show where two moderately intelligent guys attempt to make sense of the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browniacs podcast is a part of the Fanatical Elves podcast network, a part of the Fans First Sports Network. Here are your hosts, Elliot Kennel and Joel Cade. Hey, Elliot, we're back after a brief hiatus because I was sick. I think we missed our first week in 6 months or something, but
well, I was sick too. I couldn't talk. I felt okay, but I lost my voice last week. I tried to go on without you, but it just wouldn't work.
Well, point is we're back now. You know, we
back and better than ever as
somebody
else. If I can cop somebody else's line.
Now my camera doesn't want to work. There we go. I think I got it. I think.
Okay.
Man, everything's going on. So, hey, since we spoke last, the Browns have won a game and lost a game. I believe that's the case, right? Yes,
yeah,
that is correct.
Well, they won a game brilliantly and lost a game absolutely in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
I think the whole world knows about that they lost, and then Deshaun Watson was medically cleared to play, didn't play. I don't really want to rehash that too much.
Let me ask you a question before we get started yet. Are you panicking? Is it time to panic?
Oh, yeah, it's been time to panic since the get-go. I panicked ever since they signed Deshaun Watson, didn't think it was a good move. But I'll ask this in the form of a question. Is Deshaun Watson getting what he came for when he left Houston and came to Cleveland? Let's rehash why did he leave Houston in the first place? And the reason was, really that he thought that he was being subjected to dumb team management and dumb coaching. And he really
which was probably accurate.
Pardon?
Which was probably accurate.
I think so. In many respects, I thought that Bill O'Brien was probably a very poor general manager in that he traded too many draft picks in order to build the offense. And wait a minute, that's kind of what the Browns have done, isn't it? Didn't they trade too many draft picks in order to get Deshaun Watson? But Bill O'Brien, I think, in retrospect, is actually a very good offensive mind. And let's talk about the Bill O'Brien offense a little bit and what Deshaun Watson might have objected to. What Bill O'Brien did, in my mind, was set up kind of a triple option offense where he used a lot of run-pass option to start off with. And then Deshaun was presented with kind of a triple option in which he would be able to run the ball. He'd be able to throw a screen pass to the player that he just started the RPO with, or he could throw the ball downfield. And that worked brilliantly well. In his last year with Houston, he threw for 4,800 yards and over 30 touchdowns with, I think, 7 interceptions. He had a brilliant year statistically. Houston, however, went 4-12, and Watson wasn't satisfied with throwing for 4,800 yards. He felt that he could do much better in an offense. Maybe we could point to somebody like Sean McVay, I think, as the prototypic coach that Deshaun Watson would like to work with. Somebody that would give him lots of down the field opportunities and throw a lot of long ball opportunities. And he mentioned during the negotiations when he was a free agent, or effectively a free agent, he was really under contract with Houston, but allowed to negotiate with other teams, that he wanted to throw the ball 40 times a game, and he wasn't wanting to play dink and dunk. He was wanting to play long ball. If I got that about right, Joel?
I think on the playing side, correct. I think there's a whole nother element to this Watson thing in Houston behind the scenes, where this started around the whole kneeling situation, went into some of the 9/11, not 9/11, but the pandemic stuff. But really, when it came to like the Colin Kaepernick kneeling situation and players standing up for their rights, which all NFL owners hate, but also standing up and trying to make themselves kind of a bigger part of the organization. And there was a lot of pushback by the owner at that point against Watson. that owner went to his neighbor and said, "Hey, why don't you sue Watson?" Which his neighbor did. That's the lawyer that's representing all these people. I mean, the NFL knows exactly what's going on with Watson, and I think there's been, and I call me a conspiracy theorist, there's been a concerted effort to kind of put Watson back in his place in terms of the NFL ownership to Watson, because he was looking to become this like LeBron James style player that wants to kind of transcend the game, but also control his own destiny within the game. And the NFL wasn't going to have that. So in part, that's how a lot of the players got traded off the team, all these kind of things. And kind of why he still to this day remains the heel of the NFL. I mean, there's other things on top of things, like a lot of things that we think are the problem are really a symptom of a different problem. So
you don't think that it was football issues or on the field issues so much as the off the field politics that
I would agree with that 100%. The McNair family has a history of being a certain way, and Watson wasn't fitting that mold.
All right.
I mean, when you come out and you tell your team that, I mean, this was public record, so I guess I can say this. I mean, when you come out and you say we can't let the inmates run the asylum, talking about your football team, people are going to get upset.
Okay. Well, I certainly agree with that. And I would also say further that the Cleveland Browns are probably or definitely one of the most socially progressive organizations in football, have been from day one, and that the Browns have been at the forefront of understanding the players on the flag issue, the kneeling issue, and many other social issues. In fact, we want to have some of the representatives from the Browns charity organizations from the Be the Solution program. We're going to have them on the show soon. But nice. I will say this, recall that when Deshaun was negotiating, that the Browns were an organization that he excluded, and that exclusion was not made on the basis of politics, but it was based on the reason was that the Browns were a cold northern city, not a warm southern city. The Browns played on natural turf, and Deshaun felt that he was a better player on artificial turf, and that Deshaun liked playing in a dome, and the Browns didn't have a dome. So that's what he thought he would like to have in order to be the best football player that he could be, and the Browns didn't match his list.
I mean, he ultimately chose the Browns because Stefanski and Andrew Berry and Witten Sales pitched him, right? And said, this is what we're thinking about doing with you. Watch the film, talked about offense, talked about this is the scheme we're going to do. This is how we're going to try this. This is going to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And that's what convinced him.
Yeah, that's
according to him, that's what convinced him. Now,
I think
was it the money? I don't know. Was it? I mean, he signed the contract apparently, or negotiated the contract apparently after he agreed to go to the team. I don't know if that's true or not either, but I'm throwing it out there. Just point counterpoint.
Well, I think the money had a great deal to do with it, but also it's true that the Browns.
Well, there are other teams on record.
Throw the ball way more with you on the team than we did with Baker, and they talked about the 40 passes per game kind of theory and stuff like that. We heard that number thrown around during the negotiations. Was it true? Did the Browns change their offense for Deshaun Watson, or is it still the same offense that they had with Baker Mayfield?
Well, they were in a completely different offense. I think what they're going through right now with Deshaun Watson is he's actually now starting to play. They're starting to put together, and I know it's 3 games in, but they're putting together an offense around him, and the Browns are going through what every team in the NFL is going through right now, which is what works, what doesn't work. They do it every year, no matter who the quarterback is. This is what the quarterback's comfortable doing. This is what the quarterback's not comfortable doing. And Stefanski and Watson are really, truly, for the first time, going through that process. And I think we saw in week 3 where we had the pretty big win there against Tennessee, a different offense than we saw in weeks 1 and 2. There was less under center, there was less emphasis on the run game, there was more passing, just Deshaun Watson out there either in alone sets. I can't think of the name. Empty sets. Empty sets is what they are. Or they're single back sets with the back in protection or the back going out as a safety valve. And I think that's what Watson's comfortable with. The question is Stefanski comfortable with that? Because Stefanski likes to do the 3 tight ends run the football, but
Yes.
that kind of offense is designed for a team that doesn't have a great quarterback, like the San Francisco 49ers. You take Mr. Irrelevant, put him in there, and he's got some talent, and Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, but is he a top half quarterback? No, but with that offense, you can prop him up to be a top half quarterback. Well, you don't need to do that with Watson. And I think there's some growing pains between Stefanski and Watson playing out schematically in terms of what they do best.
Well, yeah, I think we can get into that a little bit later, but one of my points is that the run first offense really needs to have a acceptable running game in order to work. The Browns still, as of last week, and I didn't look up the statistic for today's show, I apologize for that, but the Browns were like number 5 or something like that in terms of the run to pass ratio in their offense. Mm-hmm. They were still running the ball a lot, even without Nick Chubb, but they didn't have any kind of success running the ball without Nick Chubb. They didn't have anybody that was gaining 4 yards per carry, except for Pierre Strong, who knocked out a really big run that pushed his average over 4 for the time.
I would like to see more Pierre Strong. I mean, Jerome Ford isn't a bad running back. He's not. Jerome Ford's problem right now, if there is a problem with Jerome Ford, is that he's, in my opinion, a little bit too slow to the hole. Okay, so what happens in one of these zone reads is that you run a track. All the offensive linemen are kind of moving in one direction, and the running back runs a track. And they're looking for 3 different spots: outside, off tackle, cut back. And I think he's just taking too long to make a decision on where he's going. And in the process, the backside chasers can come and get him from behind. So when he decides to get into the hole, he may get 1 or 2 yards before a backside chaser comes back and tackles him. Nick Chubb used to have this problem all the time until this year, and he kind of fixed that. Then he got injured. But I would like to see Jerome Ford just be more decisive on where he's going. And yes, I know it's his first year really playing in the NFL, and that's going to come. But there are growing pains with Jerome Ford finding a hole. Now, Pierre Strong, for whatever reason, either it's just sheer dumb luck or doesn't know better. He just like, okay, the hole's supposed to be here. I'm going to run as fast as I can to that hole. And I don't know if he just doesn't let plays develop, but he gets through the hole and bam, there he goes. So the Browns may be better served playing some more Pierre Strong at running back. And I know they got to work Kareem Hunt in, but Kareem Hunt may be the ultimate solution there. He has the good balance between patience and hitting a hole. The question is he fast enough to make it happen? And you're going to have to work him back in.
Yeah, well, I don't have the scout's eyeballs that you do, but from my perspective, I see Ford slowing down as he gets to the line of scrimmage and hesitating, kind of tiptoeing up to the line of scrimmage. And I think really the 79-yard run that he had early in the season might have been bad for him, because that's exactly what he did. Is he slowed down, stopped actually, and then reversed his field, and he had a fantastic gain. And I think, 99% of the time that doesn't happen. If you go up to the line of scrimmage and stop, they're going to clobber you. But this time it worked. But he keeps on trying it again, and it may not work ever again for the rest of the season. But he keeps on coming up to the line of scrimmage and then hesitating and putting on juke moves and stuff like that. And that just does not work in the NFL. It might work in college where you can fake somebody out of their undershorts. But I don't know that I believe that that's going to work for Ford in the NFL. And I think that it's not that Strong. Well, okay, first of all, Strong has had success in limited small data samples in New England last season, as well as Cleveland this season, He does have a career average of over 6 yards per carry. It's not that he's proven himself, but the other running backs have proven themselves ineffective, possibly because they may not be that great right now, or it might be that the offensive line is letting them down. And in particular, both the left tackle and the right tackle have struggled so far.
Well, I would say before we get to the running game situation, which I want to get to here in a second, I want to keep talking about running backs for a second. There's a parallel development for running backs like there is quarterbacks. All right, when quarterbacks come out of college, they go into the pro system, and if they haven't run a pro system in the NFL, in college, which most haven't, there's a transition to the NFL. And what it means to be open in college is different from what it means to be open in the NFL. Okay, and parallel to that, what it means to have a running lane for a running back in college is different from what it means to have a running lane in the NFL. So I think Ford is kind of trying to learn what a running lane in the NFL looks like. You're not going to have the wide open gaps and the things you can run the Mack truck through. We don't have, Alabama versus Bucktooth State on the western side of Chickasaw County or something. We're not playing those teams. All right. So you have to kind of understand, like a quarterback understands that being open is a little bit more covered than what it was in college. Having a hole is a little bit less of a hole than what it was in college. And they close quick. And I think Ford's trying to figure that out. In terms of the offensive tackles, I mean, one, I kind of like, I can't think of his name, the huge guy on the right tackle.
DeJuan
DeJuan Jones. I like DeJuan Jones. I think he's nimble. I think he's got to move. He's a rookie. And I think people need to understand he's a rookie.
Yeah. I think certainly he should get better as the season progresses.
Yes.
But he's been kind of outmaneuvered in the early going.
And he's huge. So people are going to run through him or run around him, and they're going to run around him. And he's going to be hard for him to transition and change spots. But if you're the one to look for an offensive tackle, a right tackle in the NFL, I mean, that's who you want to look at. This is why nobody wanted to move Orlando Brown to left tackle, because he's a perfect right tackle.
Yeah.
So
the big guy now to be able to lean forward and gain some yards for his running back. I do want to get back to Deshaun Watson, but let's continue on talking about the offensive line and the running backs, since this is so interesting. But I wanted to ask your opinion also, Joel. What's going on over on the left side with our big, investment in Jed Wills, who we gave a 5th-year option for $14 million next season. And by the way, I just want to say to all the people that I've been fighting with on Twitter that we're not trading Jed Wills. It's not because we don't want to trade Jed Wills. It's because no NFL general manager in their right mind is going to give the Browns anything for the right to pay $14 million guaranteed in 2024 for Jed Wills. So just shut up about that. It is not happening. We are not trading Jed Wills for anything. Thank you.
Okay. So I don't know. There's a lot going on with Jed Wills. This may just be who he is. It may just be who he is. I think in some respects he's pressing. All right. He's trying harder than what he is. He doesn't react well when someone does a counter move on him. It's like he's thinking out there. It's like he's, okay, what do I do next? And not of it's like it's not internalized. I don't really understand what's happening with him. Either he just can't think on the fly, or he's just not practiced enough. I mean, he's played a left tackle for his 4th season. I mean, I don't quite understand. So for whatever reason, he feels, it looks like to me, he's playing scared or timid and not 100% full speed. Maybe he's afraid of screwing up, which is causing him to screw up. I think there's some problems. Now, why the Browns pick up
playing at this low level 2 years ago? I mean, I think, he was making like rookie mistakes and stuff, but I felt like he was improving. Is he injured or something? It's hard to tell.
I don't know if he's injured
sometimes.
I don't know if he's injured, but yeah, we've gone through entire seasons without knowing somebody was injured, and we're sitting here like, what the heck is going on? And it turns out he's just injured. I don't know what's going on with Jed Wills, but they're keeping him next year because they don't have a 1st-round draft pick to take another one. And it's not worth trying to invest in a left tackle on a 2nd-round pick. You want the top flight tackles. And they're just going to have to make do with what they got. It's just time for offensive line coaches to make their money and figure out something with him.
Well, at this point, there is no decision. The commitment has been made. Guaranteed
At least for 1
money
year.
means that it's guaranteed.
Right. At least just for 1 year. And if that 1 year buys them a first round pick the following year to take a left tackle, then that's what it does.
Buys them? No, it doesn't buy them anything. It doesn't get them anything. It just gets them terrible play for $14 million.
Who are you putting in the spot? Who are you putting there?
Say what?
If you got rid of, let's just say in a,
there is no option.
Okay, but let's just say in fantasy world there is an option, and we can get rid of Jed Wills and his terrible play. Who are you putting into a spot?
Well, if you're going to give me $14 million, I'll go sign somebody. That's pretty easy.
Okay, and how many left tackles actually hit the market?
Oh,
not many. Not many.
Yeah, probably a bunch. I think there's probably you could go buy somebody for $8 million and he would be better than Jed Wills. Yes, he would.
Maybe. Hey, we got to take our break here, Elliot. So hang on. After the break, we'll get back to Kevin Stefanski, right? We're going to get back on Stefanski and Watson.
Yeah, let's get back on that.
So after the break, we're going to talk about Stefanski and Watson. Hang on. All right, guys, we're back. Visit our sponsors. Pay us up a lot of money. You can just donate to us if you'd like. That's cool too. But after the break now, back to the Kevin Stefanski versus Deshaun Watson discussion. And Elliot, what do you got for us?
Well, this is the point that I was going to make, that I felt from a football standpoint, the things that Deshaun Watson wanted to do for his career, namely to insert himself in a high-octane downfield passing offense, were not accomplished by coming to Cleveland. I think right now, based on the personnel that the Browns have, namely that they do not have Nick Chubb, they really need to be fielding, 4 and 5 receivers at a time.
Well, that's what they were doing week 3 against the Titans.
Yeah, well, that's what they need, and they, not blocking tight ends necessarily, but if they're going to have tight ends, 2 tight end offense, great, but they're going to be receiving tight ends, and they need to be throwing the ball downfield because there's no choice. There is no running game. If they are going to run the ball, maybe they can get some yardage out of Strong, but until that's demonstrated, they're going to be doing stuff like running the ball with the jet sweep and stuff like that. Short yardage, I think Kareem Hunt maybe can run the ball a little bit, but they just don't have the personnel to run the ball 50% of the time like they've been doing.
Well, a few things to that. One, I want to get on Elijah Moore, because do not ever in any way, shape, or form give him the ball on a jet sweep ever again. Ever. I mean, if you think Jerome Ford can't hit holes, go back and watch the all 22 of this situation. Maybe I'll do a separate video just on this play. Go back and watch the all 22 with Elijah Moore on that jet sweep. There is a huge hole. Okay. There's a wall of blockers, and he decides, instead of going in the hole, to try to run around the blockers and then loses 20 yards.
Okay.
I mean, where are you going to go if you run around your own blockers? What do you think is on the other side?
Well, I'm not
the other team is on the other side.
I have not been a great fan of Elijah Moore. I think that, we were not fair to the kid because, he was acquired for very little in terms of draft resources, and we hyped him up like he was a first-class NFL receiver. And really, he was a guy that we wanted to put in the slot, and maybe we'll get some yards out of him. But there are other slot receivers, that could be used in this situation. Donovan Peoples-Jones comes to mind. There are guys that we could play in the slot.
Well, I don't think he's bad. I mean, I think he's a good slot receiver. And if you can get that for a second-round pick, then I think you've hit on that pick.
Oh, no, he was not a second-round pick. He was like, we traded, I forget what we did, but it was like we traded third round pick for a fourth round pick and got more in for the deal, something like that. So it was a fractional draft pick.
Okay, but I think they ended up with our second round pick when it was all said and done.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, and then we ended up getting a third back along with
something
him.
like that. But okay.
So I mean, but still, I'm still happy with that as a trade, even for what Elijah Moore can do as a receiver, and we've seen him do as a receiver. I'm happy with that. Just stop giving him the ball on the jet sweep. That's all I want. Or teach him to hit a hole. Put him in the running back room and teach him how to actually hit a hole. So anyway, to your point about Deshaun Watson and the 5 wide receivers, I believe that's what we were talking about. Correct?
Yeah. Okay. We got a third round pick back for the second round pick. That's what we did.
Yeah. Okay. And Elijah Moore. So
yeah,
I think the Jets were just trying to get rid of him, and we're like, okay, we'll flop second and thirds, and you give me Elijah Moore. But I'm happy with that trade. I just don't want them giving him the ball around on an end around because he just can't do it. Another one of those situations where like what a hole looks like in college and the NFL are two different things. But 5 wide receivers. What did the Browns do? And I know this is the kind of the difficulty of us not having a show last week. What the Browns did different in week 3 versus the Titans versus week 2 in Pittsburgh. Okay. Without Nick Chubb, the Browns became a very pass-centric offense. It became what you have described that Deshaun Watson wants the offense to be. A lot of wide receivers, a lot of options, a lot of RPOs, a lot of situations where he can just sit back, survey, and just throw the ball to who he wants to and play point guard. That worked. I thought it worked great. I thought the Browns run a roll offensively. It's exactly what needed to happen. You get him out there with 5 wide receivers, give him a bunch of options, give him a running back, 4 receivers and a running back with a dump off option. We're good. And his escaping ability has been helped to negate some of the terrible play we've seen at left tackle. And I think he's been okay. Like I thought that was really helpful, which I thought we're going to come here, we're going to clobber the Ravens, just come out with this offense and this defense, because the offense was very much a ball control offense. The Ravens defense, their secondary is just non-existent. Deshaun Watson's going to pick this team apart. It just didn't work out that way. As soon as they rolled out DTR, I knew that the Browns were in trouble. No rookie wins their first start. And the Ravens, by the way, just a little Ravens hate plug, they've beat a rookie quarterback on his first NFL start with the Texans. They beat a hurt Joe Burrow. They lost to the Colts backup quarterback, and then they beat a second rookie on their NFL debut. So before, the Ravens are like the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then next week they're playing the Steelers backup quarterback, who's a backup to Kenny Pickett for a reason. And Kenny Pickett isn't exactly tearing down the house. So the reason the Browns lost last week was because they started a rookie quarterback who looked like a deer in their headlights. I mean, he looked lost. And no running game was going to save him, period.
Yeah, no, I disagree with that. And if you look at the stats, the Ravens were not dominant offensively against the Browns.
Correct.
The Browns' offense was completely non-dominant against Baltimore. As simple as that.
Basically, they just didn't have an offense. So if you're going to go out there trying to win a game with a defense, this is what the game's going to look like, because your defense is going to be out there forever.
The game.
The offense lost the Pittsburgh game. So what can you do, right? I mean, Deshaun Watson had to adapt after that Pittsburgh game, and the team adapted the offense. They became a different kind of situation in week 3, and then he's hurt. I mean, it's just a step back. And, you know, honestly, for people complaining that Deshaun Watson didn't play, would you rather be in a Cincinnati situation like with Joe Burrow, right? The Bengals are 1-3 and have a hurt quarterback. Or they could have been 1-3 with their backup quarterback and now have a healthy quarterback going into week 5. Which do you choose? I would rather have the healthy quarterback. Let Deshaun Watson sit. Let him come back ready for San Francisco. I even mentioned this in the post game with John. I don't even care if he doesn't come back for week 6. If you want to start Dorian Thompson-Robinson out there against the 49ers, just go do it, because it's an NFC game. Every team in the AFC North is going to lose to that team. One team already has. The other 2 are going to get their chance. And at that point, what have you really lost? It's just a clean slate. Put DTR out there. Give him another week if Watson needs another week. Get him ready for the long term of the rest of the season.
Well, yeah, I guess you've kind of changed my mind on Watson once again. I worry about Watson because I think that a lot of the same problems that he faced in that he faced in Houston, are very similar in Cleveland. I feel like Stefanski's offense is too similar to the O'Brien offense. I think that they do need to open it up. I think they have no choice to open it up because I don't see the running
Correct.
game um, able to support the traditional Stefanski offense that worked
Right.
so well
Yeah.
in Minnesota. We don't
It's adapt
have
or
the
die
personnel
time.
to do that.
Yeah.
And I think
It's
there's no choice, but we're going to have to send, 3 wide receivers and a tight end out and stuff like that. 4 wide receivers, stuff like that have got to happen in Cleveland because we just don't have the personnel unless it turns out that Pierre Strong is a lot better than we think. He might be that so-called diamond in the rough that comes out of nowhere, and he's the Leroy Kelly to the Jim Brown that we lost in 1966 that I remember and nobody else is old enough to remember. But
Well, I'm not ruling out Jerome Ford at this point. I mean, I think if you can get him some experience, he does have good hands to catch.
I would put it
He's
this
quick.
way. I would put it this way is that I think that enough things have gone wrong that Pierre Strong needs to have a shot to see if he's part of the solution. Jerome Ford, with the present offensive line configuration, just has not had enough success. I think I'd stay with Kareem Hunt as a short yardage back,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that Pierre Strong needs to have more playing time. And, I think that you do need to have reps for more than one running back. I don't believe in the one running back system, but I would get Pierre Strong involved in the game in the first quarter and see if he can gain some yards against San Francisco.
Well, you got to make sure he can pass protect. That's the only thing. I mean, NFL teams go up to the line of scrimmage with 2 plays, a run play and a pass play, and depends on which one makes the most sense. That's what they're running. So, I mean, you got to be able to pass protect. I don't know where he's at on pass protection. I'm not giving up on Jerome Ford yet. I like what I see when he actually gets through a hole. To me, it's about training him to see a hole and get through a hole. And if nothing else, just tell him just light a fire under his rear end and get him through a hole.
Yeah,
Follow him
don't
around with the
slow
broom.
down. Do not
Follow him
slow
around with the
down as
broom.
you approach the line of scrimmage, man.
I mean, I remember when I was in high school and I was an offensive lineman, and I looked over one time, watched running back drills, and the running back coach had literally a broom, and he would like say ready, set, go, and he would swing the broom to hit them in the butt with the broom. And if they didn't fire off the ball fast enough, they got a little spanking. I mean, I think that's what you got to do with Ford. You got to chase him down while he's running his alley, running his track, and like when the hole opens up, just swing the broom. If he doesn't get through the hole, he's getting hit. I mean, just get him. He's got to stop playing timid, hit the hole. 3 yards positive is still 3 yards positive.
Okay, maybe we should have that on our show. If we don't have snappy comments on our show, we'll have somebody hit us with a broom to make the
Yes.
show go faster. I think that's a good idea.
Hey, before we end this day, I want to ask you something. Is Taylor Swift destroying the NFL?
Oh, no. I love Taylor Swift. If we have nothing but Taylor, we'll get her on the show. How about that? I think it would be a wonderful thing. Let's have Taylor Swift on more often, on more NFL teams. We need Taylor Swift on the Cleveland Browns for sure.
Well, we do have Adele. Adele has come out and said that she's a Cleveland Browns fan.
Oh, well, okay, that's nice, but Taylor Swift is on another level.
Another level than Adele.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No, there's no comparison. I'm sorry. Taylor Swift is.
Okay, let me put it this way. Before this past weekend, I knew who Adele was. I did not know who Taylor Swift was. And then I've had to have my wife explain to me who Taylor Swift was, then play some songs of Taylor Swift that I've never heard before.
No. Taylor Swift is like Jim Brown in the music world. She's like the Beatles. I mean, Taylor Swift is unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah, and plus she's a manslayer, so beware.
That's the only one thing I know about her is that she writes her songs about her ex-boyfriends or some crap.
Yeah, no, she's really mean to her ex-boyfriends for sure. She might take down Travis Kelce. Hey, did you hear what Bill Belichick said about Travis?
No.
He says, well, Travis has had many great catches in his career. This, if he succeeds, would be the greatest of his career.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, we'll catch y'all on the flip side. Have a great week.
Okay.
Go
well,
Browns.
I dated a Cincinnati Bengals cheerleader one time. Does that count?
I think so. I don't know if it was Taylor Swift level or not.
It's not Taylor
Thank
Swift.
you for
Though.
listening
It's not
to
Taylor
the
Swift.
Cleveland Browniacs. Please like and follow us on Spotify and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Go Browns!